It's Tuesday, April 22nd. I'm Matt Harmon. Welcome to the Yahoo Fantasy Forecast, and it is a hell of a day to talk ball, baby. And join me to do just that is Andy Behrens. Andy, I normally would make a joke here that, we're pulling you out of, baseball land. We're dusting you off the shelf. You're back in the NFL zone. But per reports, you've basically been gallivanting out of the country. We send you notes about this podcast. You're like, sorry, can't answer. I'm hammered in Ireland or something like that. So I would ask, how the hell you doing, buddy? But I feel like you're doing pretty poorly because you're back here talking football with me.
That is a fair assessment, a fair paraphrasing of, I believe, our text exchange. That's right. Yeah, I'm back. I'm happy to be back. This is the greatest week of the NFL offseason. Everybody knows it. It's like it's been said many times. It's like the one time a year that these teams can't lie to us, that they can't hit us with misdirection. I'm excited for it. I have some genuinely terrible draft takes to share with the people tonight. So let's get to it.
Yeah, I am absolutely thrilled to find out what Andy's draft takes are. I mean, it's a high energy environment here. If you're watching this, and you are watching this live right now, if you're joining us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, the whole deal, I am in studio in LA. Andy, I literally landed here like 2 hours ago, immediately Ubered from the airport to the Yahoo studio here. Grabbed a cold brew and a little fancy boy juice, sat in the sunshine for a minute. Yeah. I'm feeling energized, and I'm ready to just talk prospects with you because I have absolutely no idea what you think about any of these players. I have no idea your take, so that's going to be completely fantastic. But it's also completely fantastic that it is draft week. We are 2 days away from the NFL draft. And speaking of the NFL draft, we have tons of great content all week long, including this live show. But more importantly, we have a live draft show. Charles McDonald, me, whatever. Nate Tice and Jason Fitz are going to be doing this live draft show for the first round and the second round and the third round on Friday of the NFL draft. Now's a great time to download that Yahoo Sports app before the NFL draft this coming week, baby. We've got live activities on iOS. You can watch each draft pick right on your lock screen. I mean, on your lock screen, folks. That's fantastic. You can also check out our full draft coverage, grades, plus watch those Thursday and Friday night draft streams right inside the Yahoo Sports app. So download it on the App Store or at yahoosports.com/NFL draft. That is enough business. Let's get into the subject of today. Rather than do, another mock draft, everybody's doing mock drafts right now. Everybody's like, oh, this latest rumor, this really means this, that, or the other. Instead of doing any of that, we're going to play real make-believe one last time on this podcast. Andy and I are going to wish cast the top quarterback, tight end, running back, and wide receiver prospects to dream landing spots. I don't know about Andy. I tried to be somewhat realistic, but also a little more fun leaning. So I'm not going to say like, hey, Cam Ward can be drafted by the Rams. Like, that's not going to happen, at least in my eyes. But there are really no rules to this exercise. We're just trying to find our favorite landing spot for these players. So with that, Andy, let's get into it. Let's talk quarterbacks and tight ends to get us started here. And let's start with Cam Ward, who is going to go to the Tennessee Titans, number 1 overall. But we don't need to talk about that. What is your dream landing spot for Cam Ward here?
Yeah, listen, I'm gonna open with something that is just absolutely not going to happen, right? Zero chance it happens. Cool. We know where Ward is headed. You said it. He's going to the Titans. But man, the Steelers just have a turnkey offense. And I think my favorite thing about the idea of Cam Ward to the Steelers, where he is definitely not going, is that one of Ward's perceived weaknesses, right? The big play hunting, the constant, let's get it all on this throw kind of attitude. That would be one of the most appealing parts of his game in Pittsburgh, right? Because there's George Pickens over there and there's DK Metcalf over there. He will, once again, he's going to end up in Tennessee. He's going to have Calvin Ridley and some dudes, not Pickens and Metcalf. So this is just a pure thought exercise, but it is actually my favorite pairing of QB prospect in this draft with a team that has a desperate screaming need for a quarterback.
Look at that. That is suddenly a fun Pittsburgh Steelers offense there with Cam Ward under center. So take it in, Steelers fans. It ain't going to look anything like that. I don't know who their starting quarterback is going to be coming out of Thursday night. Maybe it's one of these other guys. Maybe it's Mason Rudolph. I don't know, but take one last look at this little fantasy scenario, because that's what we're doing here in this Wishcasting podcast. Yeah, it's so great that you brought up the kind of Cam Ward strengths aspects of this, because I've watched a lot of Cam Ward, not just also studying Cam Ward, but by association charting Xavier Restrepo, who could not be any more different than DK Metcalf, or even George Pickens for that matter. I mean, he is a small, scrappy slot receiver. Look, Restrepo, obviously with the 4.8, that's tough. But he is a guy who finds space. He's a guy who actually works well on these off-script plays. Now I'm just imagining, what if that was DK Metcalf on the other end of those scramble drills? It's not going to happen. Right? It is only in our imagination. But I like what you've laid out here, Andy. I'll give my fit for Cam Ward here, and I did go boring off the top, and I just said Tennessee Titans. Like I said, I tried to remain, somewhat realistic here. This is my absolutely most realistic thing. This is probably the only one I'm going to get correct all podcast long is Cam Ward to the Tennessee Titans. But Andy, the reason I said this is a dream fit, or whatever we're doing here, is it favorite fit? Is it prospect wish casting? I'm wish casting Cam Ward to the Titans because, I mean, they need something, man. They have been an irrelevant team. Yeah. Since obviously Mike Vrabel just left, but they've just been, kind of lost in the wilderness at quarterback for a long time. They found a brief relief there with Ryan Tannehill. That was a cool moment in time, but even that wasn't obviously a long-term solution. They tried to do the Will Levis thing. That didn't work. We can't just have one of these dead spaces at quarterback across the league. I think Calvin Ridley is an interesting player alongside with Cam Ward, and I'm really excited to see who they draft at wide receiver. I expect them to take a wideout at some point. So look, this is not as pretty of a picture as what we just painted with the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, the potential Titans offense with Cam Ward, because I don't think Treylon Burks is going to be one of these spots. I don't even know if Van Jefferson is going to be one of these spots. But if we had one receiver here, I do think this offense gets a little bit interesting.
Yeah, listen, I'm seeing what we got on screen right now, and we gotta get Burks and or Jefferson off of there, right? So if we get a really exciting day 2 receiver to Tennessee, then I'm feeling better about this, and I can wish cast it as well. I mean, again, we know it's going to happen, and I'm not trying to take nice things away from the Tennessee Titans, by the way. Big Tank Williams guy. Sure. I love my Titans. Tighten up and whatnot. But this is simply a question of just loving Cam Ward's, the pairing of his tendencies with what Pittsburgh might have. But we can get there in Tennessee. They've just got some work to do in this draft.
Tighten up and whatnot certainly feels like tighten up and whatnot. Yeah, sure. That's a little bit too indicative of what Titans football has been of late. And I actually care about you people of Tennessee, folks of Nashville, one of the great American cities. I want you to have a quarterback solution. I gave you a quarterback solution. Okay, let's go to the next player here on our list, which is Shedeur Sanders. And this one's going to be, I think, a little bit maybe spicier. So I'm really curious, where the hell did you send Shedeur Sanders? And Andy, any thoughts on just Shedeur as a prospect in what looks like it could be one of the more mysterious draft landings of tomorrow Thursday and Friday night potentially?
Yeah, I love the intrigue around Shedeur Sanders. I love the idea that, man, the guy could go at the top of the draft, not the very top of the draft, but near the top of the draft. Or he could, we could be in for a fall, and who's going to stop that fall if it happens? I do think that Sanders has clear strengths. I think he's pretty obviously the best quick game quarterback in this draft. There are things he can't do that are well documented, things that maybe aren't quite at an elite NFL level. I get it. I do also think that much of the criticism of Sanders very quickly goes to things that have nothing to do with anything that happens on the field, right? It's layers of speculation. It's presumption. It's stuff that just does not involve anything that he put on tape at Colorado. And I'm pretty interested in him, and I'm maybe more interested in Sanders than consensus, I think. And so I have a landing spot for him that I doubt it's going to happen, but it solves a couple of problems. Personal problems for me, dynasty problems for me, fantasy problems for me, yes, but also maybe some personnel problems. I like Shedeur Sanders to the Colts. I don't think it's going to happen. But
I
I
did
but
not
I
see
kind of
this
like
one
Shedeur
coming. Okay.
Sanders to the Colts. Again, I think he's one of the best, like, just quick game, accuracy, ball placement quarterbacks in this draft, which maybe that's not saying a lot, but he's statistically coming off a phenomenal season. Let's put that guy with Josh Downs and Michael Pittman and see what we have. Because I think that's a pretty good pairing of receiving room and quarterback as well. Also, it means that we would not have to talk ourselves into Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson all over again. And if I'm taking Sanders in the first round as the Colts, it means that they're not taking one of the elite tight end prospects. And I do not want to see Warren or Loveland
Yes.
sort of exiled to the land of Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson.
Oh my God, Andy, this is why I want to do this podcast with you, because like everything you just said is like, it's scratching my brain. It's making me feel good. Everything that you just laid out there, because I have long said that I don't want to see either of these tight ends with the Colts. Okay, like the last thing they need is another guy they can't get the football to. Spoiler alert: I'm not sending Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland to the damn Indianapolis Colts. Okay, and I love this because yes, just like you said, we don't have to play pretend all summer. Like, some goofball in the industry is going to be like, I got a real strong stance about Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. We don't have to hear that nonsense. Okay, who cares? We know what's going to happen. Both these guys are going to start. Everybody's going to get fired at the end of the year. Maybe Shedeur saves us from this reality here. And I'm with you. My personal problems are solved here too. I'm a big Michael Pittman guy. I love Josh Downs. I'm always thinking about Josh Downs. He's always in the back of my mind. And I think A.D. Mitchell is a really nice potential breakout player at some point in his career. And I actually think I don't remember who it was, but I've seen somebody say like, yeah, Shedeur Sanders is actually kind of similar to Gardner Minshew, because while he is an accurate distributor of the football underneath, he doesn't necessarily push it downfield. He's also not like, he's not the greatest in structure quarterback because of his sack problem, which I think also makes sense for Minshew. So while you can argue with that comparison, and maybe you think Shedeur has a higher ceiling than that, I think Shedeur probably does have a higher ceiling than that. Nevertheless, like we've saw Gardner Minshew have a lot of success with Shane Steichen as that accurate underneath distributor. And I think that would, again, what's the ceiling of a Shedeur Sanders Colts-led offense? I guess, again, we could have that discussion. But nevertheless, Andy, I love this fit. I think this is fantastic.
Yeah, well, I've got plenty of fits coming that you're not going to love nearly as much, but I do think this solves a whole bunch of problems. And again, I am just dreading the possibility that one of my, like, a couple of like legit elite blue chip tight end prospects, all kinds of buzz about those guys going to the Colts, and I do not want to see them on this version of the Indianapolis Colts.
Okay, well, I'd love to just end the show right there on a positive note, but I'm getting word from producer Colin that I'm not allowed to do that. So we will continue here. I will just say that my spot for Shedeur Sanders, and I've talked about this on a previous episode of the show, is the New Orleans Saints. Won't go too deep into it here because, again, I've discussed this before, but Shedeur Sanders, I think, fits Kellen Moore's offense really well. Again, a guy that they're going to run a lot of quick game. As long as you can get him kind of right with the decision making and have him confident in behind an offensive line that I actually think is not as bad as maybe people believe. They certainly need to upgrade the right tackle position. Trevor Penning's not really worked out in the league, but from left guard from left tackle to right guard, I think they're a pretty good unit when healthy. They were a good unit when healthy last year. By the way, I think they could get Shedeur Sanders maybe in a second round trade up. I think that's within the range of outcomes. I don't think they'll take him at 9 necessarily, but maybe you take an offensive tackle, like a right tackle, at that 9th overall selection, and then you get Shedeur Sanders. And I really think he fits well with what Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed can do. He can throw the ball accurately and push it on these dig routes. I've seen it because I've seen him do it with Travis Hunter consistently. And I think Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, obviously that's where they can live. So I think this would be a great fit, make the Saints offense very interesting here in this season and also beyond.
Yeah, I do. I do pretty obviously think that's a great fit. It solves a huge looming problem for Chris Olave, right? And I'm sure that you think about Chris Olave just about as often as you think about Josh Downs. So like, I'm solving one problem with Sanders, you're solving another problem with him. I do think it would be a really nice fit.
I try not to think about it too much because it's just sad. So I'm focusing on more positive things in my life. Let's move forward here with the next quarterback on our list, which is Jaxson Dart out of Ole Miss. I'll give my fit here first because it's a little bit boring for this year, but maybe not in the future. And I also personally think if I am Jaxson Dart, I would be sitting here and saying, please, 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 please let me land with the Los Angeles Rams. He is the tools are real with Jaxson Dart. I think from a mobility standpoint, he's actually a guy that you can maybe not build like a fantastic run game around, but he can give you something with his legs. And Sean McVay, I think, is always, ever since the John Wolford era, when he basically tried to pull Jared Goff for John Wolford and essentially did that at the end of Goff's time, I think he's had like a little sneaky fascination with like a more mobile quarterback. I think Dart could give them that. I also think like at his best, if he does develop, and I think he does need development, this landing spot obviously allows him to do that. He can really sit back in the pocket, stare down the barrel, and like rip it on some of these in-breaking routes that are key to the Rams offense. So obviously this potential offense is not this season. It's maybe beyond, so it won't look exactly like this. But from a system standpoint, I think this works for him. It gives him the time to develop. And, I've seen some quarterback evaluators that I really respect kind of compare him to Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is currently on the Rams roster. And I think that Jaxson Dart could develop into hey, that's your read, hit your read, and keep it moving.
I like that you did this because I do think of Jaxson Dart as somebody who, man, if he's going to be an NFL starter, maybe he's got to marinate a little bit. I was tempted to actually put him behind, and maybe Stafford doesn't totally qualify here. I was tempted to actually just sort of throw him in a really good offense behind a quarterback who never gets hurt. I was thinking about the Lions. I was thinking about, I was thinking about putting him with LaFleur and Green Bay, right? I feel like that might actually be the best situation in terms of his long-term development. I wouldn't expect a thing in year one, right? If we're being completely honest here, full disclosure, I'm not sure that I would have put Jaxson Dart in this podcast outline. I don't have huge expectations for him in year one. I don't I've been at this a really long time, and you can still fool me in a lot of different ways, but you're not going to trick me with a Lane Kiffin quarterback. Okay. I'm not going to get all excited about a Lane Kiffin quarterback in year one. That's just not going to happen. But I like where your head is at here, and I like the idea of putting him in an environment where you can't beat the teaching environment there. If you fail in that system, that's probably on you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a nice thing for me to do for Jaxson Dart, honestly, to include him in this podcast and send him to the Los Angeles Rams. So all that being said, Andy, where did you send Jaxson Dart?
Yeah, I really galaxy brained this thing, and I put him, in part because we gotta find somebody to plug into New Orleans, because it might not actually be Derek Carr. But here's the galaxy brain component to it. If what we're after is the Saints getting the top pick in 2026, getting that Arch Manning pick, plugging Arch Manning.
Oh God.
Jaxson Dart is our man to get him there. He can guide them down that path.
I mean, that was so mean. Everything you just said there was so mean. I did a nice thing for him, sent him to the Rams quarterback school development, said like, hey, if this is a spot, it could really work out for him. And you're just like, yeah, he's going to help the Saints tank. I mean, that, like, I actually don't even know who that is more mean towards, Jaxson Dart or the New Orleans Saints fan base. I do think there is a chance, though, that he could end up as the Saints quarterback again. Probably not at 9.
Yeah.
Probably not at 9. Shoot, that's a spot that I don't love for him, just because maybe he's a fit for Kellen Moore. I'm not so sure, although it's been on my radar that people have compared him to Jalen Hurts, and obviously Jalen Hurts is the guy that Kellen Moore is just coming from working with. Then again, Kellen Moore's worked with so many different quarterbacks, so I don't know that Jalen Hurts is like his type of guy necessarily. I think they actually adapted the offense pretty well for Jalen Hurts, but regardless, the fact that Derek Carr is never playing a snap for the Saints again, that's set in stone to me. So this isn't a situation where Jaxson Dart is marinating behind Derek Carr. It's a situation where Jaxson Dart is probably starting week 1, which I don't think is the best thing for him long term.
No, I certainly don't think that's the best thing for him long term. And in fairness to Jaxson Dart, I've been pretty dismissive of him here, and I don't have a lot of expectations for him as a
Clearly.
rookie. Man, that guy did get better every season at Ole Miss. It's a complicated offense to watch and try to project to the NFL. Obviously, they always average 35, 40 points a game. Pinball offense, as our friend Scott Pianowski would call it, right? But the numbers got better every year. He's got some juice as a rusher. I don't want to completely, a lot of crazy things happen. And one of those crazy things might be a Lane Kiffin quarterback actually hitting in the NFL. And he's certainly got all the tools.
All right. Well, yeah, that was about as dismissive as you could possibly get. I'm curious to see if you're any less dismissive of our next quarterback here, which is Jalen Milroe out of Alabama. Not a guy, Andy, that got better throughout the course of his college career, but somebody that certainly has gotten some pretty big buzz as a draft riser, despite some of the messy collegiate performances. So tell me where you sent Jalen Milroe in your prospect wish cast here.
This is the guy that I sent to the Los Angeles Rams. I love that he took a visit there. It is, I agree. It's another case where maybe we'd like to see the player marinate a little bit, not hurried to start. Let's not rush Milroe onto the field exactly. The traits are just obvious, right? Like this is a guy I would have put in the podcast outline because the traits are super exciting. Right. He's a thrilling runner, huge arm. There's a lot to develop here. There are traits that aren't just good, that are like, top of the league kind of good. But a lot of work to be done as well. I've never heard, I'm not some plugged in insider necessarily. I've never heard or read an off-field negative. This is the winner of the academic Heisman. I love him in interviews. I've not seen a thing that makes me want to dismiss this player. I'm super excited about Milroe. Let's apprentice him to Matthew Stafford for a year or two. Let's keep him under Sean McVay. I would love to see how the Sean McVay playbook would evolve with a quarterback with this skill set. I would absolutely love to see it. And I know that in that environment, whatever there is to get out of Milroe, they're going to get it.
Yeah, I like this a lot. And look, I mean, let's bring that Jalen Milroe, Andy Behrens, dream wish casting spot with the Rams back up here, actually, because I got one thing to say about that. So whenever we can bring that back up on the screen, I'll get to my point there. But I love Jalen Milroe to the Los Angeles Rams, like you mentioned, high character guy. He would be that offensive kind of centerpiece as the rushing threat that I think Sean McVay sort of loves. And like you said, the high character, I think that's something that the Rams really value. That's $1 million smile in that picture of him here. I mean, look at that. He's made for Los Angeles. $1 million smile. I don't know what's more impressive, Jalen Milroe and that smile, or the Andy Behrens smolder in the top right corner there. That's worth discussing here. Two good-looking men in that headshot right there. Yeah, Jalen Milroe, I do think this would be an interesting spot for him. I went a little bit more realistic, and something that I think is, maybe actually potentially in the cards here. I sent him to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Andy, for a couple different reasons. Look, he's not going to get the apprenticeship here, right? He's not going to the Sean McVay school of development. He's going to the Arthur Smith getting thrown in the fire school. So we'll see how that would work out for Jalen Milroe. But again, I think this actually could happen. I think they really like Jalen Milroe. It's on my radar that he was invited to the draft. Like, is there some buzz that he could be a surprise first round pick? Potentially, or he could be a guy that Pittsburgh maybe tries to trade back and still grab in the first round, or maybe they don't have a second round pick. So I don't know, maybe this doesn't end up happening, but regardless, if you just think about him in Arthur Smith's offense, where he has made use of mobile quarterbacks previously, they could design a really fun and kind of clever ground game with him as that centerpiece. And also, I think with the receivers, specifically DK Metcalf, who they have on a long-term extension, I think that's the type of wideout that could work with a guy like Jalen Milroe, because he's kind of that, just like he shoots his go balls like a harpoon, just like down the field. And I mean, DK Metcalf, you pin that ball on him and he can still get running after the catch. So I think that the offense actually fits Jalen Milroe as a thrower. And I do think as a rusher, he could be a really interesting piece here, especially if they come back in the third round and draft a running back, which, spoiler alert, I'm going to give them a running back at some point in this exercise as well.
Yeah, I am as well. I like this. If there's any environment in which I can really see Milroe being a thing in year one, this would be it. Great, complicated receiving room, but a really good receiving room in terms of his skill set and what he's probably ready to do right now. The exciting thing about Milroe is as soon as he plays, he's going to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback. Like the rushing ability is that legit. We're not going to be able to keep him off rosters. He's going to be a guy that you have to like proactively go out there and get. And this is a great environment. It's a coaching staff that offers stability, normalcy. It's a fun cast of receivers too. And so I do think he would be really well paired here. I think maybe the best thing for his long-term development is let's get him with, super genius head coach and let's coach him up for a year or so. But if he's going to play right away, this is the best spot. It's also like the Steelers are, they're in this, everybody knows they're in this space right now where like, they're always going to be too good to get the best quarterback in the draft. And, right. They're not going to, this is not a team that's ever going to tank. The coaching staff is too good. Some of the other personnel is just too good. This is what you do if you're in that situation, right? You don't just keep settling for somebody who is obviously, the fourth, fifth, sixth best quarterback in a draft class. You gotta take a shot on somebody who may actually have the highest ceiling. Like you could talk yourself into the idea that Milroe has the highest ceiling of any quarterback in this draft, not immediately, but certainly long term.
That is a great point by you because, I mean, like Kenny Pickett, when they took him in the late first round, which I think there's just some sort of baggage here from the Kenny Pickett thing. Like it was a bad quarterback class. They took him late in the first round. And like what was the hope that Kenny Pickett at his best was the 13th, 14th best quarterback in the NFL? Obviously didn't even come close to that. But Jalen Milroe, if he hits, like in the AFC where you got to compete with these freakazoid quarterbacks, he actually does, like you could sell yourself that he could get to that ceiling. So I think that's a really good point by you. Yeah. Hopefully you keep making some good points here because we're going to transition to the tight ends. We're going to hit the two top guys before we throw to break here. Let's talk Tyler Warren, who I think is actually a tough player to nail down a fit for. Where did you send Tyler Warren in a prospect wish casting exercise?
Well, again, I'm devastated that my dream of Sean Payton turning Warren into next generation Taysom Hill that took a huge hit when Denver added Evan Ingram, so I can't really put him there. I think
Evan Ingram continues to ruin your life, Andy, and he
truly does. He truly does. Oh, he absolutely does. I think Warren is ready to be an every week fantasy tight end. I'm not gonna complain if he's a member of the Bears or the Chargers. I will complain if he's a member of the Colts. I put him, and I don't know if this is certainly not the best rookie year spot. I put him on the Chiefs. I'm wish casting a little Chiefs trade up for Tyler Warren. And I don't want to say that Travis Kelce is dust. He's dried out a little bit, right? He's a little withered, little flaky at this point. Not a lot of years left, maybe one. I do not hate the concept of the draft's most versatile tight end joining Andy Reid, joining Patrick Mahomes, taking the torch from Kelce, immediately taking all that Noah Gray work, fun weapon when they get, inside the 10 when they're in goal-to-go situations, just a fun weapon generally. I love the idea of giving Patrick Mahomes like a legit move him anywhere you want to, do anything with him kind of toy to play with. So I'm sending Warren to the Chiefs if he can't go. And some of this is me just lashing out at Denver, I suppose. That was where I really wanted him.
I mean, what an upset that we've got two running backs on the field here in our potential offense, and Travis Kelce just out of the mix, just not even on the screen. I will say, obviously, this is very unlikely to happen. But the type of offense that I've outlined for Tyler Warren, this is it, man. Like, it's an offensive coach that gets guys into space. He's very comfortable doing the create a touch type things that Penn State did with Tyler Warren last year. And you got two speed demons on the outside in Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown to clear some space out. I mean, this was basically why Rashee Rice was going to catch 120 balls last season if he didn't get hurt, is because he cleared all that. The two guys on the outside were clearing all that space. Obviously, Hollywood Brown wasn't playing early, but still, the Xavier Worthy alone clearing all that space, and then he was just slant. Like, now you've got two guys to run these mesh concepts with. I love this fit for Tyler Warren. I think he'd absolutely crush it in Kansas City. Obviously, I didn't send him to one of the best offenses in the league, but I did send him to an offense that I'm very intrigued by, and I actually think if they took him at the 5th overall spot, it would just be a straight-up bad pick to take Tyler Warren there, but Jacksonville Jaguars, Liam Cohen, come on down, man. I will never forget the 3 to 4 week stretch where Liam Cohen basically, because of the wide receiver injuries, built the entire offense around Cade Otton, who's a nice player, but like, they were throwing screens to Cade Otton, and Andy, those damn plays were working. Now just imagine if it was Tyler Warren on the other end of those. I think the Jaguars have to do something to make sure that they don't have a pass catching core of Brian Thomas Jr. and like what we're seeing right now, De'Ami Brown, Parker Washington, and then these guys are fine role players, but they're 3s and 4s, not 2s and 3s. Brenton Strange at tight end. Like, we got to give opposing defenses something else to think about. I know they'll do a lot to move Brian Thomas Jr. around. He's not just going to get straight up double teamed on every single snap or something like that. That doesn't happen as much as we think. Like, De'Ami Brown's going to do a lot of sacrificial stuff. I love, by the way, speaking of sacrificial, that we just don't even talk about Gabe. Like, literally, the team doesn't even talk about Gabe Davis anymore. The GM and the head coach were doing a press conference. Gabe Davis never came up once. They're like, the past mistakes, that's got nothing to do with us. So I think Tyler Warren actually would crush it in this offense. This is a dream spot for him, even if, again, 5th overall, that would be a little rich for me.
I love it. I have no complaints. This is the path to this happening is, the Jags trade down a little bit. It's somebody gets really excited, talks themselves into, got to get Ashton Jeanty at 5. And they trade down, and this is what they do with the pick. And it's a great fit. Because whatever you think about Trevor Lawrence, he can support multiple pass catchers. We've already seen that. This is a great spot. They need it. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, to invoke the name Evan Ingram again, we saw him feed the football to Evan Ingram quite a lot for a couple of years there in Jacksonville. Let's get to the next tight end in the class before we throw to break. That is Colston Loveland out of the University of Michigan. Andy, I'm really fascinated where you sent Loveland in this exercise.
Yeah, you stole my thunder. I put him on the Jaguars.
Oh, nice.
I think it's just a great landing spot for a tight end for one of these two guys. And of course, it's not going to happen at 5. This requires the trade down again. I was thinking back to with Loveland specifically when I was getting excited about JJ McCarthy like a year ago. Loveland was always there. Like those deep middle throws to Loveland, the areas in which he was operating, his ability as a route runner, his ability as just a serious downfield threat. Man, those are Trevor Lawrence throws. That's something Trevor Lawrence does really well. And you said it. Like, this offense needs another legit weapon in the receiving room. They got a guy at tight end in Brenton Strange. He was fine, had some games last year, but I think Loveland, I think Warren, they're both different. I would love to see this kid in particular. I almost put him with the Vikings just so he could go back to McCarthy, because that was so fun. Obviously, they have Hawkinson. It's not a perfect fit. It's not the best fantasy environment for Loveland necessarily, but man, I would love to see him with Justin Herbert, with Trevor Lawrence, CJ Stroud, someone like that.
I love it. I think this is really fun. The reason that I sent Warren to Jacksonville and not Loveland was because I think Warren is more of that like movable weapon, whereas I think Colston Loveland's more of a traditional inline tight end. And for that reason, Andy, I sent him to the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons have 4 picks in the NFL draft. They've got 4, and I feel like if they spent their first one on not defense, there would be a revolt in Atlanta. I feel like the owner would be like, hey, Raheem, you're a defensive guy. what's going on here? Again, the Falcons have the 15th overall pick. They have a pick in the second round. Then they don't pick until the 4th round. And then, actually, excuse me, they have 2 7th-round picks. My bad. So they just don't have a lot of draft capital. I actually think they could spend all 5 of those picks on defense, but this is a fun exercise here. This is a wish casting, and I actually think Colston Loveland would be perfect as a traditional inline tight end in this offense. Kyle Pitts was one of the veterans I put in a piece that just went live on the site today. Veterans who are on notice. He fell below 45% of the snaps in 5 of their final 7 games last year for the Falcons. He was targeted 3 or fewer times in 4 of those games. So, like, the more this coaching staff saw of Kyle Pitts, the less they wanted to see of Kyle Pitts. I think he's a guy that could be traded on draft weekend. So, again, is this going to happen? Probably not. I imagine it would get pretty bad reviews from the people who rightly think they need to use a bunch of picks on defense. But it sure would be fun to see Colston Loveland as the inline tight end of this Atlanta Falcons offense.
Yeah, you also, like, I don't know, you trade Kyle Pitts, which I agree with you. It's a definite possibility. Then we're getting picks back, a pick, multiple picks. True. I don't know, like that improves the draft haul. So it's not, it's not like we've simply spent one of the only 4 or 5 picks we're going to get on a position that is not a glaring need right now. I love him. I love the idea of putting, I almost assign. I didn't assign. I'm just going to tip my hand a little bit here. I didn't assign any of the wide receivers to Atlanta, but I thought about Atlanta with almost all of them. So I like the idea of them adding a receiving threat as well. I think it would look great. I think it would probably be a better fit. And listen, Kyle Pitts probably needs a reboot too.
Yeah, I think a divorce would be best for both parties at this point. I think it's about that time. It's also time for us to take our first break. When we get back, we will run through some dream landing spots for the running backs in this year's class right after this.
The Yahoo Sports app is your ultimate draft day companion. With live activities, you can keep up with every pick without even unlocking your phone. Beef up on the incoming rookie class with expert analysis, grades, and prospect breakdowns. Download the Yahoo Sports app right now and get ready for draft night like a pro.
All right, we are back. Let's start at the very top here, Andy. Let's get your dream landing spot for Ashton Jeanty, the prize of this year's running back class. A lot of smoke that he could be a Jacksonville Jaguar, maybe a little bit too much smoke. I don't know if that is your dream landing spot or if you went elsewhere, but hit me with it. What is your dream landing spot, your wish cast for Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State?
Man, if you did not think that I was going to give the best running back prospect in this draft to Ben Johnson and my Chicago Bears,
I should have known.
Then you don't know me at all. I'm going to have to ask the Patriots, the Jaguars, the Raiders to stand down and just leave Jeanty on the board for us. I didn't hate the way the mock draft that you and Charles and Nate did. I didn't hate the way that played out. I loved you leaping on Ashton Jeanty at 10. I think he actually probably goes top 5, right? Like I feel like there's a very clear, there's like 3 players in this draft who are a cut above, just if we're doing best player available sort of grading, I think, and he's one of them. And I'd be surprised if a guy like that fell out of the top 5 or top 6, despite the fact that he's a running back and we know the nature of the position, we know the depth of the position in this draft class. I'd still be surprised if he falls very far. I do think it's wild the way professional mock drafters have sort of coalesced around the idea of Jacksonville taking him at 5. I don't know that they will, but I think that's the right range for the player. And I think it's almost crying out for like Denver or Chicago to trade up and get him.
Yeah, that's the thing right there. You hit it on the head that I think there's a chance that he is a Chicago Bear, but it's going to require a trade up because I don't think he's making it to 10. I think there is a 0.0% chance Ashton Jeanty lasts to the 10th pick in this draft with just how high people are on him and how there's just that lack of blue. Like, he's one of the blue chips in this class, and there's not that many blue chips. Like, yes, he plays running back, but he's just so good. He's so, like, he just checks every box that somebody is going to take him before the 10th overall pick. But it could be the Bears. Nobody hates sitting on their picks like your guy Ryan Poles. Okay, he's got 2 second rounders. You think Ryan Poles? I actually don't know how much power Ryan Poles has in that building anymore. So there is that, but also if Ben Johnson's on board with it, Ryan would absolutely love to sign off on. Yeah, send one of those second round picks away. What do I care? He loves to come away with draft classes of like 4 players, one of which is a punter. I don't know. Are they taking a punter again this year, Andy? We shall see. So I do think it's a chance like this could happen here. But in my dream, if you think you weren't going to come on here and talk about the Bears with Ashton Jeanty, if you don't think I'm going to stand on business that I've been standing on since probably December, somebody is coming up and trading ahead of the Chicago Bears, and it's the Denver Broncos. Again, I have been talking about this and trying to will this to happen. So this is my one last candle lit. This is my one last, friggin' crystal that I got to hold on to. My one last manifestation here. Ashton Jeanty, the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton. That man hates extra picks even more than Ryan Poles does. Get up the draft board. You want to do it. I want you to do it. Everybody wants you to do it. It would have a high approval rating. Let's get Ashton Jeanty to this Denver Broncos offense that was really good last year at creating yards for their running backs, and their running backs were god-awful in terms of creating yards for themselves. Ashton Jeanty is a tackle breaker. He would be the central figure of this offense. I mean, it's just a beautiful fit. He barely has to move. Come on, Ashton Jeanty to the Denver Broncos. I get it, Andy. You are a biased, compromised source here. The Boise State Bronco becomes a Denver Bronco. We should all want it to happen.
It's a great fit. Denver is surely going to come away from this draft with one of its more exciting running backs. We just don't know exactly who it's going to be. Love the fit. I think Ashton Jeanty as a Denver Bronco for fantasy first rounder, late first round. I'm not going to bat an eye if it happens. It's a definite possibility. A little part of me worries that they would still give 25% of the snaps to Jaleel McLaughlin and find a role for Audric Estime and do the usual Sean Payton things. Right? It's not going to be. I don't know. We don't see a lot of that. We haven't seen a lot of Sean Payton just saying, okay, you're my guy. You're getting 95% of the snaps. If you have to come out for a play or two, fine. But otherwise you're getting it all. But you could do that with Ashton Jeanty. And I think we're going to talk ourselves into it. And I think if he lands here, if he lands Chicago, there's a handful of places where he can go where I think Ashton Jeanty is going to be like seriously in the conversation as like a, 9th overall pick, 10th overall pick in fantasy.
Top 3 consensus backs in fantasy right now: Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't think he touches that range.
Nope.
Derrick Henry at running back 4, probably not going to go ahead of him. But like Devon Achane at 5, that's on my radar about the Dolphins could add it back at some point. A lot of reception nonsense that boosted his fantasy scoring last year. I'm ready to start the conversation right there. Bucky Irving, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Christian McCaffrey. That's the conversation we're having with Ashton Jeanty. If he's a Bear or a Bronco, I'm ready to have that conversation. Okay, let's stick with running backs. Let's go to Omarion Hampton, the consensus running back 2 in this draft class. Where are you sending him?
Omarion Hampton, you are a Washington Commander. I have loved this. Since the first time I saw Nathan Charles mock the pick, I can't get it out of my head. I'd also be totally happy with Hampton as a Bear, as a Bronco. I get it, but this solves a couple problems, right? First of all, how exciting would it be to have a backfield that is shared by Jayden Daniels and Omarion Hampton? He's so fun. He's got size. He's got, multiple seasons of really high level production. He's got receiving ability. Stylistically, he's just a joy. I just think that backfield would be too much. Also, the other problem it solves is we could just be done with that whole rogues gallery of almost like AI generated running backs that get carries for Washington, right? Like you can't even name them all. All due respect to Austin Eckler, who probably still has a role there, but man, ascending offense, super talented quarterback in the backfield, just a nightmare scenario. If we've got Hampton lined up next to Jayden Daniels and some good receivers on the outside, I just love what that Washington offense could become. And I have not seriously, like the first time I saw this mocked, I have not been able to get it out of my head, and it is my ideal fit.
Yeah, I was with you. I was obviously on that show, and I loved when Charles was the one who sent him there. And yeah, I'm into this. Brian Robinson was also one of my veterans on notice in the article that went live on the site today. From week 16 through the playoffs, Washington ranked 28th in EPA per running back rush. 28th. They were basically in the same efficiency ballpark as the Browns and the Giants. And yeah, you can say maybe it was the scheme ran dry, maybe it was the offensive line, but I just think from a running back standpoint, they can do better than Brian Robinson specifically as kind of the early down banger. So Hampton, I think, would be great here. Not going to argue with you. I don't have him making it to the 29th overall pick because I have him going to the Los Angeles Chargers in this exercise. Look, Najee Harris, good back, kind of just a pure power banger. Hampton gives you some juice. Hampton gives you some big play ability. I really like the way these two guys would complement each other. And I think he fits well in like a gap-based scheme where we're blowing open holes and he can just hit them. I think he's actually going to create a lot of home runs for an offense that needs to create home runs. And when I just look at this like receiver draft class, I think that they can find the type of wideout they need. As they don't need to, I don't think they need to find a one. I think they have a one in Ladd McConkey. They can find like an X receiver, a perimeter guy, on day two. There's a lot of actually perimeter receivers that I like that are going to be on day two. So I think addressing running back now with a guy who can really weaponize what I do think is a pretty good run game scheme with ideas, Mekhi Becton at the right guard position, Joe Alt over there. Like we're blowing open holes for Omarion Hampton. I think this is a really fun, the kind of maybe not efficient, but like he's going to get you the grinder carries, Najee Harris, and then Hampton hits you the home runs.
I love this. Before I open my mind to the possibility of Hampton going to Washington, this was my wish casting spot for Hampton going to the Chargers, taking all those gap carries that went to J.K. Dobbins last year, right? It's not some long-term commitment to Najee Harris. Harris would be an annoyance in year one, right? It would be the old Chargers situation where we're complaining about why is the old guy getting carries when the new shiny toy is in town. That would be an issue for a brief while, but man, 2026, we're firing up Omarion Hampton as the full workload featured back for the Chargers in a Greg Roman, Harbaugh led. I love it. I absolutely love it. It could definitely happen. This is I think more realistic than the Washington scenario. I don't think he lasts that long. This could definitely happen.
All right, let's go to TreVeyon Henderson, one of the two good Ohio State running backs in this year's draft class. Where are you sending TreVeyon Henderson as a prospect wishcast, Andy Behrens?
Yeah, I had to send somebody really fun to the Denver Broncos, and Jeanty was otherwise occupied with my Bears, so I sent Henderson here. I don't think that Sean Payton necessarily wants to provide us with like an every snap full workload featured running back anyway. So let's give him a really explosive player who doesn't necessarily profile as like a 25 touch guy. Henderson is awesome. He's capable in all areas. He just averaged over 7 yards per carry. He did it with receiving ability, pass protection ability, full skill set. Let's just give him Javante's 200 or so touches and see if he can't do a little bit better. I think he could.
I like it. This one works for me. I think he can be a mismatch in the receiving game as well. Obviously, Sean Payton's made use of receiving backs many times over the years. I am going to have TreVeyon Henderson go to the AFC West, Andy, but I am going to have him go to a different team. Let's get TreVeyon Henderson to the Kansas City Chiefs, 31st overall. When is taking a running back at the end of the first round ever gone wrong for the Kansas City Chiefs? I can't remember any time recently. Especially a guy who's kind of lauded for his passing down work. No, that doesn't ring any bells. Not remembering anyone. Certainly not a 3-letter acronym nickname. So TreVeyon Henderson with the Kansas City Chiefs, man, this one just makes so much sense for a couple different reasons. One, we're all talking about pass protection for the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Of course, we want to do that by drafting some offensive linemen. How about you also get the best pass protecting back in the draft in TreVeyon Henderson? That's going to help out a lot. Oh, somebody gets through, the interior of our offensive line. TreVeyon Henderson's going to stonewall him and keep Patrick Mahomes clean for an extra half a beat back there. Also, beyond that, things that actually get you fantasy points. I mean, this guy can, again, be like a creative touch player in this specific offense. That's really fun. And what did we talk about all last season with the Kansas City Chiefs? It was a very efficient run game. Kareem Hunt was getting the yards that were there, but there was zero home run hitting ability. Pacheco also like a veteran that I think is on notice. I think at some point they take a back in this year's draft. I'm having them do it pretty early. I'm having them take TreVeyon Henderson here. And man, the steam on TreVeyon Henderson to the Kansas City Chiefs in fantasy drafts this summer, that would be pretty. That's fogging up some windows, if you catch my drift.
Oh yeah, this is a great fit. I hadn't really thought about it. It's a serious possibility, right? And it would tell us an awful lot about how the recovery has gone for Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco, we don't have to relitigate, anything that happened in 2024. He was going to have a really good season. Had the fractured leg, missed 9 weeks, 10 weeks. And was just simply never the same player. Like if you couldn't get that job back from Kareem Hunt, you just didn't have the juice. So hopefully his recovery goes well. Hopefully Kansas City is feeling good about Pacheco. If they're not, this is a great call, an ideal player. We've seen so many guys over the years. Think of Williams, think of McKinnon, backs who've only they've had huge runs with Kansas City, only seeing the ball maybe 12, 15, 16 times a game. I think that's probably where the workload is going to settle for someone like Henderson. He's not he's not necessarily some big beefy guy who's built for just 30 touches. But man, what a great environment for him. Creative coaching staff, obviously great quarterback. I love that.
All right, let's go to Quinshon Judkins, the other Ohio State running back. I'll go first on this one because I went a little chalky on it, and he's also going to be in this division. I am sending him to the Las Vegas Raiders to reunite with Chip Kelly. Again, there's familiarity here. Chip Kelly's current Raiders offensive coordinator had Quinshon Judkins at Ohio State last year. I don't even think this means he prefers Judkins to TreVeyon Henderson or anything like that. I just think the Raiders need somebody who is going to eat some carries. And I think Quinshon Judkins is a guy who can be a high volume back and eat some carries. So this is where I sent him in this exercise. Andy, how about you?
I sent him to the Raiders. Yeah.
Oh, we finally have an overlap.
First time we're in sync here. I too, I wanted to reunite one of the Ohio State backs with Chip Kelly. I definitely think this can happen. I really like Judkins. This is another case where I'm probably a little higher on Judkins than consensus. He's a truck. He tested well. He is clearly a potential 25 touch guy. And you're right. They need somebody who can just take those carries. Like that backfield depth chart is, it's just a desert right now. Also Judkins I feel like some of the analytics guys, some of the stats guys, the quants out there, they don't like everything about Judkins' game. In the biggest games, brightest lights, he couldn't be stopped. He won you a damn national title. I really love this player, and I want him to land in a wide open depth chart with all the touches available.
I dig it. I'm glad that we are in lockstep on this one. So let's move to Kaleb Johnson out of some school not familiar with. Kaleb Johnson, Andy, where is your favorite spot for someone I'm sure you've seen quite a lot of over the last few years?
Yeah, it's Pittsburgh. This is
we are in lockstep on this one. This is
also
mine as well.
Well, then you definitely know it's not going to happen. But I love this fit. I love this fit system wise. I am certainly rooting for Kaleb Johnson as an Iowa fan. Criticize Iowa's punt centric offense all you want, but they run some stuff that shows up in the NFL, stuff that is very translatable. And I think Caleb's clearest path to rookie year fantasy relevance is the fit in Arthur Smith's offense. Give him all those zone carries that went to Najee last season. Let him do what he did in college. Literally no opponent kept Kaleb out of the end zone last year. There was one thing that you had to worry about from Iowa's offense. It was number 2, and nobody shut him down. He's a big back who can get small. He can paint by numbers a little bit in a zone scheme. he can set up and just kind of dismiss tacklers in space. He'd score 10 touchdowns and gain 1,000 yards in Pittsburgh as an early down guy who rotates with Warren. Also, I want to say in defense of some of the criticisms of Kaleb, he is not some Sean Green guy who can not catch the football. The signature play of Iowa's season, and I don't mean that we're gonna send Kaleb out wide and he's gonna wrap you up or anything like that. But the signature play of Iowa's season was a 72-yard touchdown reception that was just a superhero play by Johnson, where he left 9 guys lying on the ground. Decided the game against Nebraska. Little swing pass out of the backfield that I don't know if a lot of backs had caught it, would have gone for 4 yards, 5 yards. He took it to the house, 72 yards. He's got more juice than people give him credit for. I know people are hung up on the 40 time, the 10-yard split, whatever. This is a smart back who would be great in this scheme.
Yeah, great in this scheme. And I'm glad you brought that up. I do think there's some real big playability here. And I really like this Steelers offensive line. I think it would have looked a lot better when we showed that potential Pittsburgh depth chart there if we had just left Cam Ward. Shoot, even Jalen Milroe. We didn't need this. We didn't need to see the Mason Rudolph thing. That certainly looks much more appealing than the actual version that we're going to get here. I mean, this it's man, this is a pretty cool offense. You've got Pickens and Metcalf on the outside. Pickens, I do think could be traded over the draft weekend, but regardless, you got 2 outside receivers. You got an offensive line that, Broderick Jones is definitely a question mark, but left guard to right tackle, I'm really interested in this group as a rushing unit. And Kaleb Johnson, like you said, just a wonderful fit for this system. The Steelers were second behind only the Atlanta Falcons, which were absurdly zone heavy last year. It's a perfect fit for Kaleb Johnson and his skills. And I do think with this offensive line blowing open holes, we can get some big plays for Kaleb Johnson. He would absolutely be somebody I would be really interested in drafting in fantasy this year. Him and Jaylen Warren could be a pretty interesting tandem for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So when you said that you had a running back going to them, I had a sneaking suspicion we might be in lockstep on this one. We are in lockstep on this one. Let's get to our last running back. This is Damien Martinez. And Andy, I will admit that this was a glory inclusion by your boy here because I just think he is a really interesting running back prospect. He's the type of back I love, big dude, can, bang it between the tackles, but also I think has some big playability. I'm sending him to the Dallas Cowboys. I try not to be nice to the Cowboys on this show, for obvious reasons. Actually, those obvious reasons aren't only producer Colin. It's also a lot of my quote friends and quote family. So for the Dallas Cowboys here with Damien Martinez, I think I'm doing something very nice because this is a guy that can handle a heavy workload. He actually didn't have to handle a heavy workload last year at Miami because they were throwing the ball so much because they were always behind in games because their defense was outright atrocious and they had a great quarterback, obviously, in Cam Ward. But he could come in here and immediately earn the starting job over Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders and these guys. I think the offensive line, there's some young pieces that need to develop, but it could be interesting if Tyler Guyton hits, if Cooper Beebe takes another step. Tyler Smith is one of the best guards in the league. So we don't need to have Jonathan Mingo as our second outside receiver. I think we will probably I have a sneaking suspicion in our final segment we're going to be sending a receiver to the Dallas Cowboys here, but receiver in round 1 and Damien Martinez in round 3 or something, I think we're kind of cooking with gas here with the Cowboys offense.
Let the record show that this is a secret list podcast, and we did not share our intentions for these players beforehand. I have Martinez going to the Dallas Cowboys. I love it. And it wasn't me trolling producer Colin either. I really like the player. He has been successful and efficient in multiple systems in college, right? He can just detonate tacklers at the end of a run. I love that stylistically. He has so many plays on tape where he just disappears from view for a little while, right? Because he's dragging, a cloud of defenders for the final 7 or 8 yards of a play. I feel like in a standard issue draft class, he would have a lot more hype. He's a really fun watch. The Cowboys need a dude, and man, I love him as a fit here. Yeah, I had him at the Cowboys as well.
I can't believe we just went 3 for 3 with we
That's
just
wild.
went pretty straight there. Like, yeah, that was awesome. All right, last running back here we're going to talk about is Cam Skattebo. Can't get through a running back section and not talk about Cam Skattebo. Obviously, one of the more well-known collegiate players. Andy, are we going to land another one here in our landing spots? Are we going to be synced up? Give me your spot for Cam Skattebo.
It would be a little wild if we were synced up here. I want Cleveland Browns fans to come away from this draft with a back that
we're
they can
synced,
just fully.
Bro, I have
Shut up,
Browns. Yes, this is great.
That's crazy. Actually, if like 4 in a row is crazy at a secret list pod. Yeah, I love the fit. It's another wide open depth chart. So somebody like Judkins would work here as well. I don't necessarily, maybe I don't love everything about Skattebo's game, right? I wish he didn't,
Sure.
I wish he didn't hit the self-destruct button at the end of every run, right? And just try to take everybody out with him. But he is certainly somebody who can handle 300 touches. He is a fun thing for Cleveland's offense, and they don't have a lot of those right now. I think there's Browns fans who could just, let's put him in what uniform number did Peyton Hillis wear? Was he number 40? They could just dust off their old number 40 jerseys and put a Skattebo on there. And man, I love the fit. Really like the player. I can't believe we're 4 for 4.
That is unironically cracking me up. The idea of Browns fans just, how they do the duct tape and the like long jersey for the quarterbacks. They just duct tape over. By the way, who still has a Peyton Hillis jersey? If you're a Browns fan and you're watching or listening to this right now, and you have a Peyton Hillis jersey, please send a picture on social media to Andy and myself. Like I would love to see that, and I would love to see you just duct tape over and have Skattebo over that thing. That's so. Hey, in this economy, that's a way to save money on a jersey right there. Look, this is a fun fit. This was mine as well. You just give a guy that can be functional in the run game and the pass game. Definitely not a pass protector, but definitely a guy that can, get out there as a receiver. And this offense that I think they're going to try to get back to their roots in terms of like a ground and pound run game. I think Cam Skattebo would give them an immediate identity. And I think you could get him probably I think he could end up being a 4th round pick, man. It just seems like the way people are talking right now, there's not that many Cam Skattebo fans in the league, but certainly would be a guy to complement what Jerome Ford gives them pretty well. Like Ford's not a useless running back. He's just a guy who clearly needs a complement and more of a power guy. Obviously that could be Cam Skattebo. So man, that's really fun that we ended up with him 4 for 4 there to finish the running back section. We're going to take our final break. We come back. We're going to go through the wide receivers. We're going to maybe pick up the pace a little bit because I've talked about these guys for what seemingly is my entire life, but we will do that right after this final break, right after this. All right, we are back. Let's talk wide receivers, Andy. I have a feeling we are going to link up on a few of these landing spots as well. Let's start off at the top. Give me your dream landing spot for Travis Hunter, and I'm very curious how realistic you were with this one, because I did not send him to the Cleveland Browns, but I did stick with the team that's near the top of the draft.
It's not super realistic. I don't think it's going to happen. I also didn't put him with the Cleveland Browns. I put him on the Carolina Panthers. Carolina has just a screaming need at receiver, and another in the secondary. So I'm fixing both with one pick. Again, don't think it's going to happen. Don't think that Hunter can possibly slip outside of the top 3. But I think he would be the best receiver on the Panthers by orders of magnitude. And the way Bryce Young played in the second half last year. First of all, he was so consistent that there's no way to tell yourself that it was just a fluke, that it was just he's on a heater or anything like that. I think it has become an urgent matter to get that man a playmaker. And I think Hunter might be the best playmaker in this draft.
Okay, two thoughts here. Let's keep that potential depth chart up here because I got a couple thoughts here. Number one, as people may or may not know, I used to be a fan of the Carolina Panthers. Then we were, it's complicated on Facebook, and now I feel nothing for the team. I will say, Travis Hunter out there with the Panthers. I'm not going to say I feel something, but I might not feel nothing. Say that as well. Also, you can tell that this podcast is a little too Harmon pilled that we have Jalen Coker just straight up ahead of Xavier Legette on the potential Panthers offense. So I will cop to that. That may or may not be my fault, even though I had nothing to do with putting this graphic together. That may or may not be my fault. Lastly, I think the Panthers are probably more likely to trade down than up in the top 10 this year, but I did see James Palmer who used to be with NFL Network, he's currently with Underdog, report that there is a team in the top 10 that is head over heels for Travis Hunter. I'm like, there should be not just 10 teams in the top 10 that are head over heels for Travis Hunter. There should be 32 of 32 NFL teams that are head over heels for Travis Hunter. So if the Panthers, Dan Morgan has been, he traded up for damn Jonathan Brooks last year. Okay. I think that we could see him, make an aggressive trade up here. And this Panthers receiver room, I think even if all these guys hit, Legette, Coker really becomes a thing. Thielen's good again. That's still a mediocre receiver core. And Bryce showed you a lot last year, but you should be all about let's make his life easier and better. This would be obviously the best possible way in the draft to do it. So I wouldn't rule out that they take a receiver at some point. And if they took one here, I think I'd be okay with it, but I don't have Travis Hunter going to the Panthers. I have him going to the New England Patriots. Again, I've talked about this one a lot. We don't need to spend a lot of time on it. He would just be a perfect fit with Drake May, who is also just blindly confident and earned confidence in throwing heaters over the middle of the field, also outbreaking routes as well. Travis Hunter would just immediately give him a number one receiver. He could work in tandem with Stephon Diggs. He could play all three receiver positions. This is exactly the type of guy they need. And the Patriots should be all about wanting good things for Drake May. We should all want good things for Drake May. I want good things for Drake May. So I love both of our landing spots for Travis Hunter. We don't need to go on and on about it. He's one of the best players in the draft and somebody that I've gone on and on about for quite some time now. Let's go to Tetairoa McMillan out of Arizona, Andy. I sent him to the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if you have something different here, but I think this one is pretty this is live. This could very well happen. Tet's got a wide range of opinions. There are people that think he's a clear top 10 pick. There are other people that think he's not quite in that range. So we're kind of splitting the difference here and giving him the 12th overall selection here. He just goes out there as the X receiver. He allows CeeDee Lamb to move around the formation as the detached flanker, as the slot receiver, and he gives them a true ball-winning presence that they haven't had since Michael Gallup. And man, I just think Tet would be. Also, by the way, CeeDee Lamb can take snaps at X receiver. He's great as an X receiver, so that allows you to get McMillan some slots from some snaps from the interior as well. So, just a great fit. I think he would be. He would be a really nice dynasty rookie pick in this landing spot with Dak Prescott. There's a lot of good overlap between their skill sets.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's not the landing spot I chose, but it's a good one. And obviously the Cowboys are I think going to target a receiver. They're probably going to target a receiver early. I think if McMillan lands there, he's got a shot as a rookie to be a 1,000-yard receiver. I don't think that's out of the question.
Mm-hmm.
The Cowboys are one of those teams that just has that's a rogues gallery of guys, bunch of random Jalen's over there, catching 2 or 3 balls a game. Let's feed that all to one player who can operate at multiple levels. I like the player a lot. I think he's a pretty clear first rounder, probably first half of the first round. And Dallas is very much in play for him.
All right. So where did you send him in this exercise?
Yeah, you talked up the Chargers' need for a legit dangerous X earlier. That is where I sent him. I sent him to the Chargers, especially after I sent Loveland to Jacksonville. I felt that I had to, Loveland was a pretty clear candidate for the Chargers as well. That is where I sent McMillan. We all love Ladd McConkey right now, but the supporting receivers in LA are, just to remind people, Quinshon Judkins, the ghost of Mike Williams, right? Like they don't have a lot, and T-Mac would just be an incredible complement, I think, and very well paired with Justin Herbert. Again, someone who can operate at multiple levels. I think it's fine to like maybe still hold out some hope for Quinshon Judkins, but that guy saw 38 targets over the final 4 games last season, and we can't let it happen again.
No, he needs to be a high yield, low usage player. And I actually think the best destiny for that is not as an X receiver. Like there was nothing on his collegiate film that said he could play X receiver. He has not been able to play X receiver in the NFL, but I do think there's a chance that he can be a usable player. He was a usable player at times last year for the Chargers offense under Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh, et cetera. So this obviously isn't about like maximizing Quinshon Judkins, but that's a side bonus of also getting a really damn good receiver. I think this probably doesn't happen, but there's a non-0% chance I think that he just falls a little bit, because once you get out of the top, once you get past Dallas, really, it's Miami, it's Indianapolis, it's Atlanta, it's Arizona, it's Cincinnati, like maybe Seahawks at 18. But that's a lot of teams that don't need this type of, maybe don't need a receiver at all, but certainly don't need this type of receiver in T-Mac. So I like this. Last thing on this, would there be any sort of like, let's play a little dynasty here. Would there be any temptation by you to say like, oh, actually in your dynasty rankings, like McMillan now goes ahead of Ladd McConkey?
Oh, wow. No, I don't see that happening, but that's that's just mostly about my feelings for Ladd McConkey and the way he came out of the gate strong. He was great early last year, but late in the season, certainly once we got final games, the postseason, if you take what he did over like the final 8 or 9 games, that's like a 1,600, 1,700 yard pace. He was sensational. I don't think that is ending anytime soon. And it's not like he was seeing volume that couldn't be repeated even with a player like McMillan lined up near him.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think some of the Dynasty Bros really put an emphasis on that. Oh yeah, Tet was a better prospect than Ladd McConkey. And in my prospect rankings, I do have McMillan over where I had Ladd McConkey. I'm with that, but I put a real premium on, like, I have seen you do it in the NFL, and I've seen you do it at a high freaking level. So yeah, I'm with you that it would not be like, it's not, I wouldn't say there's a 0% chance that by the end of McMillan's rookie or even second season, like maybe it has flipped, but after the draft, I would still have McConkey over McMillan. But I just thought that was a bit of an interesting exercise there. Okay, let's go to our next guy here, Matthew Golden. Where did you send Matthew Golden in this exercise?
This is the receiver that I assigned to the Cowboys, and this is, hey, this is kind of a chalky pick by me. It's often mocked. It is maybe it's a sign that I'm running out of gas at this late hour. I don't know. But Jerry Jones just like has an unmistakable love for Golden. We have seen that at multiple points. He's obviously the fastest receiver in the draft. He's a guy who, I don't always like it when a guy delivers a lot of his career numbers in a short burst. But man, he saved his best work for the biggest games last season. And if you're going to do it in like a 5-6 game stretch, pick the end of the season and into the college football playoff. I wish he'd been a little bit more productive at the college level, but he was again difference maker against some great opponents in the biggest games they played. I like him best also as a supporting receiver who just sort of creates chaos and real stress on a defense with his speed. I think he's someone who can really benefit from the gravity that a player like CeeDee Lamb has, in much the same way. And I know that you've discussed this before, in much the same way that like, Jordan Addison's life is so much easier in Minnesota because they got Justin Jefferson over there. I mean, I think I don't think Golden is exactly Jordan Addison. I really liked Jordan Addison coming out of college, but I think that's the same kind of benefit that would fall Golden's way with CeeDee Lamb on the field.
I like it. Of course, this is a popular one, but it makes a lot of sense for all the reasons that you just laid out there. And yeah, he would be a very beneficial player to that offense from a production standpoint and from what he allows CeeDee Lamb to do. You mentioned this late hour, Andy. I forgot. Yeah, I'm West Coast, Best Coast right now. I forgot it. It's probably way past this old man's bedtime. But I will say, for my pick for Matthew Golden, I went for one that is not as popularly mocked. I'm not going to say I've never seen it, but certainly don't see it as much as to the Dallas Cowboys. I sent him to the Arizona Cardinals for a lot of the same reasons that you just sent him to the Dallas Cowboys, which is he's going to create space for the number one wide receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr. He's also going to allow Marvin Harrison to move around the formation a little bit more than last year because I think Golden probably best projects as a flanker, but I think he can take some X receiver duties as well because of the speed and verticality. Like he's going to access those routes in a way that Michael Wilson has not and probably is not going to. So he helps Marvin Harrison. He helps the entire offense. I think this, again, probably not going to happen. They have screaming needs on defense, but I wouldn't say there's a 0% chance he could end up with the Arizona Cardinals here. So I think this benefits two young players here in Golden and Marvin Harrison. And let's see if Kyler Murray can just actually do the damn thing. Let's get to the next wide receiver on the list here, which is Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. I'll go real quick on this one to start. Dane Brugler got me pilled on this one on the last mock draft Monday. I sent him to the Washington Commanders. That one just lit me up as soon as he started laying it out there. Makes so much sense. High character, high effort, physical, runs his routes in the area where Jaden Daniels likes to distribute the football. He brings them presence as a blocker. He brings them a zone beating presence that really complements both Deebo Samuel and especially Terry McLaurin. Deebo's a one-year guy. I don't really know that they necessarily see him in their future plans. And Emeka Egbuka would give this receiver room a very, very, very bright future. So that was my pick for Egbuka. Andy, any thoughts on that fit and also your fit for him as well?
Yeah, this was my honorable mention pick, if I can have one on Egbuka. I love it. I thought about it. I was this close to doing it. And as you say, there's not a long-term commitment there to Samuel. That's kind of a kick in the tires on a guy who's had at least a great year on his resume. I really like the idea of Jayden and Egbuka just maturing together. I don't know. Let's spend the next decade together and see where it takes us. I do think that he operates in the area of the field where Daniels is great everywhere. But man, in terms of ball placement, he's about as good as it gets. So I like that fit a lot. The one that I went with, maybe this is chalky. I don't know. But I sent him to Houston and CJ Stroud. Yeah. Egbuka actually had his best collegiate season as a sophomore with CJ Stroud. I love him as a slot complement to Nico Collins. Just a very familiar, easy button for Stroud. And he'd be part of a young offensive nucleus that can develop together, ascending team. Christian Kirk is out of the picture. I know you're a big Christian Kirk bro. We've talked about that before. He's out of the picture after this season. We don't even really know what he can give in 2025. So I think Egbuka here, share in a field with Nico Collins, and again paired with CJ Stroud would be a great fit.
I think the responsible thing for Houston to do is to take an offensive lineman in the first round.
Yeah.
There's a big part of me that wants them. There's a big part of me, Andy, that wants them to be irresponsible and wants them to, like, what does CJ Stroud want more? To be protected or to get his buddy in this receiver room? And I kind of want him to advocate for his buddy. I think this is one of my favorite fit. This has been my favorite fit since the moment I laid eyes on Emeka Egbuka's film. So I'm with you on this one. This would be absolutely fantastic. Let's go to the enigmatic Luther Burden. I think he's pretty difficult to find a fit for. So Andy, give me your fit for Luther Burden.
I like the way you're describing him right at the top. I think he's a range of outcomes guy, but I think the ceiling's pretty high. And I'd like him in a number of places. Good offenses, good play callers, good play designers. I slotted him in Buffalo, but I'd like him in Buffalo, in Green Bay, in Kansas City. Yeah. Yes. Buffalo's receiving hierarchy is it's already full of slot guys. There's plenty of opportunity here. Burden, I think, has some alignment versatility to his game. He, after I assigned him to Buffalo, I will say I did notice that at the combine he tested with he's got those little baby hands, right? He's got the little Kenny Pickett hands. So maybe he's not a perfect fit for December and January football in Buffalo. I'm not sure. But he is a receiver who I think, again, range of outcomes. And at the bottom end, maybe it doesn't look good, but at the top end, I think it looks great. And if I'm the Bills, I'm taking shots on players who can be difference makers at receiver.
Yeah. I joked about the slot stuff, and I have actually said that Luther Burden, if he just is the player that he was in college and doesn't, develop further than that, like he could be a souped up Khalil Shakir. And I mean, obviously, like we already got Khalil Shakir at home, kids. But still, like I think obviously this, and by the way, like very different in terms of like the effort of the two players, Khalil Shakir versus Luther Burden. But I do think that Burden is a guy I'm very bullish on the fact that like he can run. He can develop into an outside receiver. I don't care about the Mickey Mouse way that Missouri used him. I actually think he can develop into an outside receiver. It's just the question is, and I've said it all throughout the process, like how good is Luther Burden going to be? It's up to Luther Burden. So I sent him to another place that like has a history of developing receivers, and that is the Los Angeles Rams. So congratulations, Luther Burden. You get to catch passes from Jaxson Dart in my little make-believe scenario here. Obviously, Luther Burden does not need to be a year one impact player for the LA Rams, but he's not going to get away with any like nonsense in that receiver room when you got freaking Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams in there.
Yeah.
Like, you got some real deal mentors. Number one, I think that's good. Again, it's a coach that is invested in teaching young players in Sean McVay. I think that would be the dream fit for Luther Burden, is to get with a coaching staff and a group of veterans that is really going to get the best out of him, because there is something in there. I went on a whole rant on Reception Perception, the show, about like how the kind of discussion of Luther Burden on both sides is kind of weird and stupid to me. So I won't give like a bunch of like those takes and stuff like that. But again, this is the right type of environment for him to develop. He can be used right away as their slot receiver. And just this would be a nice spot for, I think, him to get to his max potential, which does remain very high.
Are the Rams the team that we have sent the most players to in this podcast so far? Right? Like it just, you just want projects to go to Sean McVay, right? It just makes so much sense. We did it with a couple of quarterbacks. We did it with Burden, and it's just one of those environments where like if there is something great to get out of this player, that's the environment in which it is most likely to happen.
All right, let's hit our last three guys kind of rapid fire here. Obviously, I could do this all night. I could give you landing spots for Torrey Horton and like Andrew Armstrong and Isaac Tesla, baby. But we're not going to do that. We are going to hit Jaylen Noel here. We're going to hit both Iowa State receivers, and then we're going to hit Jack Bech. Andy, by the way, in the email chain before this, said congratulations to Jack Bech on his inclusion, which was that Jack Bech slander? Because if it is, I'm offended. But let's get to Jaylen Noel first before you slander Jack Bech. One of the most enjoyable stories of the NFL draft in terms of his perseverance in the wake of tragedy. Andy, I mean, and you're just out here slandering him. No, I'm being facetious here. Jaylen Noel, get to Jaylen Noel. Who is your dream fit for Jaylen Noel?
Oh man, it is possible that we will end this podcast on a contentious note. But for the time being, I genuinely like Jaylen Noel. I think he can succeed pretty much anywhere. I put him with the Denver Broncos. He is. There's so many things to like about Noel. Elite athlete, hyper competitive, terrific production with big game production. A slot guy with a little bit of versatility, downfield ability. I love how competitive this guy is. Played the bowl game. He shows up everywhere. Noel is going to the Senior Bowl. He's doing every event at the Combine. Like, I don't know if you had like Celebrity Jeopardy, he would show up. Like he's just competing on all fronts. I love that. Denver is an ascending team with a need. I would also love him in Washington. Thought about that. I thought about all these guys to the Washington Commanders. I would happily welcome Noel to the Bears. I think he's going to be really good.
I think he's going to be really good as well. He's commonly comped to Christian Kirk. I have him basically replacing Christian Kirk in Jacksonville. Both these offenses, the one you sent him to in Denver, and obviously in Jacksonville, they emphasize these in-breaking routes. He had over 90% success rate on dig routes and reception perception. Didn't run those a ton, but that's where I want him to live, like intermediate and deep slot targets with flanker stuff as well. So I have him going to Jacksonville. I think him and BTJ would make a really, really, really fun tandem there. Let's get to the next Iowa State receiver, Andy. And it's funny that you sent Jaylen Noel to Denver. I actually sent Jayden Higgins to Denver. And the reason being is that I look, I'm lower than consensus on Jayden Higgins, that I think people know that at this point, but I do think there's a path for him to be a successful NFL player. It's going to take the right coach that uses big wide receivers in ways that aren't just, hey, you're big, you run a 4.4, you're my X receiver. You know who I really trust to do that? I really trust Sean Payton to do that. So they basically kind of did this with Devon Vele last year, like a jumbo size slot receiver at times. I know Devon Vele is a big ass receiver, but I don't know. I think and so is Jayden Higgins. So like, why not just get Jayden Higgins in here to do what Devon Vele did for them last year? That was my dream landing spot for him.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I like the player. I don't love the player. This is kind of the line where I was like, if I'm being honest, I haven't done a lot of wish casting about Jayden Higgins. Like I love Noel. But my landing spot for Higgins, I don't know if it's exactly the right fit. But he's this is a big guy with a bigger wingspan. I think his wingspan is like 6'7", 6'8", something like that. Productive at Iowa State, obviously. Really reliable hands. We like that. But he doesn't need a perfect ball in order to make a play. And I wanted to send somebody helpful to Justin Fields, so I assigned him to the Jets. I think he gives him a friendly, forgiving target, which I think Justin probably needs. That's a team that's going to run the heck out of the ball, so it wouldn't make Higgins any kind of fantasy factor necessarily, but I think it's a decent fit.
When I first did like 3 games on Jayden Higgins, and I know this is a little bit of helmet scouting because he was also an Iowa State receiver, a massive Iowa State receiver who didn't test like a nothing athlete, by the way, because I think that's been a big reason for Jayden Higgins' rise. I was like, is this not just like a really, to be fair, a really rich man's Allen Lazard? And I know like Lazard has become a meme, because of the Rodgers stuff and the contract, but like he's a useful receiver in the NFL. And I do think there's a path for Higgins to be a useful receiver, especially if he's used in the way that Lazard was used in Green Bay, which was mostly like as a detached player, a slot, and even like a big tight end at times. So you're basically sending him to New York to replace Allen Lazard, who they said could request a trade, and surprise, surprise, is still on the New York Jets roster. Our last guy here is the great Jack Bech, Andy Behrens' least favorite prospect in the entire class. Since you hate Jack Bech, I'll go first on this one, and I'm not sending him to Jacksonville. That has obviously been a landing spot that I've talked about a lot. I'm sending him to the Houston Texans because you went Emeka Egbuka basically in round 1, which I think would be sick. That would be awesome. But if they go offensive line in the first round and they go for a pass catcher later, I think Bech as that slot player would be really good in this system. Nick Caley is the new offensive coordinator. He comes from the Rams most recently, but also has a Patriots background. I think both offensive families would fit a player like Jack Bech, who is a guy I'm really, really high on as a route runner in the short and intermediate area, even though Andy just wants to screenshot that 9 route success rate, sub 50% 9 route success rate. And be like, you can't even run deep. Why are we wish casting a guy who can't run deep routes? I'm doing it, Andy, because he's going to be a great fit in this Houston Texans offense working in tandem with Nico Collins.
Two quick things on Bech. First of all, what a story. Easy guy to root for, and no disrespect intended. And I do understand how someone can become a Bech bro like yourself. And number 2, and producer Colin can verify this, Jason can verify this. When I sent in my secret list for this podcast, I said, all I really want is for Matt Harmon to be happy with the landing spot, regardless of where it is, where he goes. I just want Matt Harmon to be happy. That's not a lie. That's very true. And he's also, I get it, dog of a player, like almost literally never drops a pass. That's not going to happen. So I sent him to San Francisco. I sent him to Kyle Shanahan. I think that's a good spot for him. I personally, that the issue, you called out the issue that I guess I have with him. It's some of the downfield ability. It's like, here's something that has gotten me throughout the draft process. Like whenever I see one of those, sometimes you see somebody put together a cut up of a player on social, and they'll be like, here's 90 seconds of Jack Bech dominating. A lot of those clips of him dominating, he's got a defender like right on his shoulder. Me personally, I like my Big 12 receivers to just be alone in the camera frame. But I do like a lot about him. He's versatile. He's certainly, we can line him up anywhere. I think he's going to block his ass off. I think he's going to be a good pro for a long time. I don't know if he's going to be like a guy that we're plugging in fantasy regularly, but I think he's going to be a good pro for a long time.
Oh, I mean, this makes me sick, Andy. I'm not only am I not happy, I'm sick to my stomach for two reasons. One, okay, how about you really love those Jalen Reagor Big 12 highlights when he's all alone in the frame. Why don't you go look those up on YouTube? Have yourself a good rest of your night.
I kind of do.
Yeah, great. That turned out well for everybody involved. Secondly, yeah, this landing spot makes me want to throw up all over the studio here. Okay, like I just got here, and I mean, what is this?
Oh, I didn't want that.
We've just. What is this? I mean, number one, he's not. I don't think he's an X receiver. He's taking Brandon Ayuk's spot. Like, no, they just took Ricky Pearsall in the first round last year, and he's basically like a slot. He's a slot heavy receiver, and like, honestly, Jauan Jennings is like the middle class. I'm not even gonna say poor man's. It's disrespectful. Jauan Jennings can play. He's like what I hope to be the middle class Jack Bech. Like or like that's the type of, it's like this is the same. I hate this. I hate this landing spot because like one of these two guys who one of these three guys, if we're putting Bech in the mix here, between Bech and Pearsall and Jennings, one of them's getting screwed. One of them's getting banged here in this scenario. And I think if they're looking for a receiver, they kind of need like an X receiver if Ayuk is going to start the season slow. So Andy, not only did you not make me happy, I just arrived at the Yahoo office. Well, now it feels like a long time ago because we've been doing this show we've been doing 90 minutes on prospect stuff that's never going to happen, which is just bad podcasting by me. So I just got here and I'm going to puke all over the studio. Congratulations.
Oh, well, then I disavow this fit. I disavow this pick. I repudiate it. I take it back. Again, all I want is for you to be satisfied with the landing spot for Jack Bech. That's really like, if there's one takeaway that the people out there have, it's that, wow, Andy really wanted Matt to be happy, and he disappointed him. And for that, I am sorry.
I hope people are watching this on YouTube so that you can just like if you just look at Andy's eyes there, all you saw was lies, like lies. I know I have tiny eyes, but I mean that like Andy's eyes were lying as he just said that, which is fine. So I'm very upset with you, Andy, but this is a great place to land the podcast on because, the media loves controversy. And I think people are going to nobody's going to be talking draft rumors for the rest of the week. They're going to be talking about the Matt Harmon, Andy Behrens feud at this point. So congratulations.
Beef, yeah.
You've sold us out. You've sold us out for clicks. Yes. This major beef between the two of us. What the hell am I even talking about anymore? That is going to do it for today's show. I appreciate the hell out of everybody who watched after, and especially the people who watched live. Speaking of live, reminder people, the NFL draft is Thursday. Yeah. You know what else is Thursday? Our live stream. Okay. Yeah. That's right. First round of the draft, 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. We are going to be live. It's going to be me. It's going to be Nate Tice. It's going to be Jason Fitz. It's going to be Charles McDonald. Jory Epstein and Charles Robinson are going to be joining us remote to give some analysis on picks as well. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. So you can watch that on YouTube, X, Facebook, and the Yahoo Sports app. Make sure you download that app. This podcast feed, by the way, is going to be a collaborative post-round one reaction with the Football 301 guys. It's going to be me, Nate, and Charles McDonald early Friday morning. And then you make sure you check in for another live one on Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. on the Football 301 feed with our draft grades. But, Andy Behrens, we are not done with you, pal, because you and I are going to be back on the Yahoo Fantasy Forecast with another episode on Sunday afternoon. So at some point here in the next few days, we're going to have to get producer Colin in the mix to do a little mediation so that we can kind of clear up this feud that has developed between us. But no, in all seriousness, it was good to have you back on the podcast. This was super fun, even if, again, we went 90 damn minutes on podcasting, that none of this will matter here in a few short days.
Hey, remember when we were in sync on like 4 or 5 guys in a row? Remember the good times? Let's try to focus on that.
True. There you go. See, all right, we're already coming back together. You're right. Let's focus on the good times. Let's focus on that the joy of the Cam Skattebo revelation. That is what we will all from this podcast. Again, so much content for you to consume over the next few days. Happy draft week, everybody. We are out.